All right. I think everybody's here. All girls today. All the guys are slacking. Shows who wants it more, I guess. Um, I can't give Jose shit. He's like one of the best at showing up ever. All right. Let's kick it off. Let's talk the more boring, I don't know, I consider it a little more boring topic. The muscle soreness, muscle damage. Oh, here comes Justin. One of our guys made it. Nice. Well, we'll start off with that one. I want to also relate that article to like programming since we talked programming last week as well. And then we'll go to the macro, which is more actual hands-on coaching. Um, for the muscle damage and soreness, did you guys have any quick takeaways before I jump into it? Any questions, comments, thoughts? It took me back to my like starting CrossFit days, that first week of like not being able to walk right.
It's that breaking that old mentality, because everyone knows if you like are sore, you should like take a rest day, right? So now it's just like re-educating people and
Which
being like you need to come in and move.
I actually think taking a rest day, not the worst thing, but I think it's the most uncomfortable thing you can do because then you just stay the same and like barely gets better versus there's been plenty of times I'm like feeling wrecked and I move and I may go in and like super scale a workout, but I feel 10,000 times better after and the day after. So I think resting doesn't really get people out of the clear. So that's a good observation. Especially newer people. Like if you hammer them Monday, they're usually sore like all the way through Friday if they're not used to the CrossFit stimulus. So I think movement is definitely important there. Any other thoughts, comments before I
Um,
go? Go ahead,
I had
Justin.
a good takeaway. It's that DOMS is closely associated to more of the faster eccentrics versus like a heavy squat day. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man,
Oh no, we lost them. Terrible timing to freeze.
a half Murph or something with a shitload of air squats.
There he goes. Justin, we lost you a little bit. But to Justin's point, I know I personally go through that. Like I get far more sore off of quick, high repetition stuff than I do like a heavy day. Especially like wall ball shots. Like you want to fuck me up, give me a high wall ball shot workout, and I'm sore. I'm like hobbling, and my knees are buckling in Publix and like the grocery store. It sucks. Um, so I think let's let's kind of start out. I'm going to change the order. I'm going to talk about it and what Justin just brought up in that because I think you can relate the soreness and the level of like damage that occurs directly to intensity, right? And defining intensity is going to be speed. There's like the Cindy or that high repetition. You see like people moving very, very fast. And then when you equate it to the load, like you go, okay, I don't get as sore as if I do a 5x3 back squat. But if you've ever done like a decent volume, like 4 or 5 sets of 8 with like a tempo, then that can make you very stiff, very sore as well. So it's like taking the intensity off of those heavies and like turning it a little bit more into a muscle hypertrophy or like a bodybuilding skill can cause a lot of soreness too. So I think you can relate that directly to those intensities. Have any of you ever done like a program that's like all eccentric work or it's like a bodybuilding or like hypertrophy, like very specific, like kind of branching off from CrossFit? Have any of you guys experienced that? It's brutal, and it's brutal like in such a different sense of like what we're used to in a Metcon. Um, Dave Lipson and Thunder Bros like super known for it. And his whole thing is, bodybuilding, functional bodybuilding, looking really good, but with the promise to maintain performance is like his program's like goals and purposes. And I would say 70 to like 85% of the main heavy mechanical load stuff, which is like deadlift, back squat, presses, bench presses, have some kind of tempo for that reason. Did you guys take away of like if you're doing heavy eccentric, heavy like tempo stuff, why that would make someone more sore or cause more like, I say damage loosely because I don't want that to be taken in a bad way to the muscle?
Because there's more tension. And I guess
Yeah,
in,
more
yeah.
tension longer. That's for sure part of it. And you're also lengthening. So like in eccentric work, a lot of times like it'll be used for like flexibility and mobility reasons because you're lengthening that muscle through the range of motion of the joint. When you're adding load to it, now you're lengthening and you're fighting it, and because there's more tension and you're stretching it out, what does something do eventually if you just keep stretching it? It rips, it breaks. So it causes more of those like micro tears and like those little damages that essentially end up making us stronger when they repair faster than if we just like flow through a back squat or flow through a deadlift. I think that was a really good takeaway from the article as well, because if you want to equate it to like a programming sense, or you're trying to get just raw strength or trying to bodybuild or put muscle mass on, eccentric works amazing for it. And it can help keep you a little less like achy and healthy as far as like the joints go too, and really good range of motion. What was you guys' takeaway from stretching? I think this is a really good point to bring up.
I think we've hit this before with you that, well, kind of. So you want to kind of move within those first 90 seconds, I guess, but it's not going to necessarily, like the stretching isn't going to necessarily help you recover faster. It's just going to make you, I guess, more flexible in the long run.
Yeah, why? So like we coach a class, we finish class, we go to cool down, and like most of the time the cool down is going to be some kind of stretch, right? It's just the easiest like mind frame thing to do, and probably easiest to corral people. Why would we do it then after the workout purely for like a physical performance base, not like we're building community, because obviously that's a good one. But why do we do it post workout and like have people stop and take them through that? I feel like this is a good Justin question. You're nice and warm. Besides like not getting in your car with 190 beats per minute heart rate and trying to drive away, but you're nice and warm. It's a really good time to take, I think we lost Justin again. It's a really good time to take the muscle and the joint through a range of motion because it's already warm and more like malleable versus like doing it cold. And that's why you see like hot yoga and stuff like that. What would you guys prescribe someone for recovery if it was like a post workout and they're like, I want to do something that's going to help me get staged for tomorrow as best I can?
I guess it depends on what you do that day.
Yeah, like any just general. I don't care what it is, legs, arms, get blood flow.
Echo bike.
Yeah, jump on the bike. Echo bike
Good
would hit
one.
legs and arms, and just get blood flow moving. Get everything flowing through, get new fibers delivered, things like that. I think movement is really ultimately like the best thing you can do no matter what. For someone coming into the gym, and we have like a new, free trial type person, and they're day one, they haven't CrossFitted, or they're that person that's like, yeah, I do CrossFit before, but they're wearing their like Asics with Velcro straps, and you know that they're not telling you the truth. That happens, I think, more than not than it should. With the muscle soreness and like the delayed onset that they're gonna get, I think it's way more valuable to make sure that you almost scale them down and give them, like we talk about, like challenges and things like that to get them to buy into some of that heavy scaling than to hammer them day one and someone that's not used to the stimulus gets sore from like Monday all the way through Saturday, and then you don't see them. So I think as a coach, it's really important to kind of realize if I hammer this person too hard, there is a high chance I don't end up seeing them again for at least an extended period of time versus like getting to see them on Tuesday and Wednesday and having them through the whole week. I do think there's the individuals that love to get hammered, and then they're just like, hell yeah, this workout was the best workout I've ever had. And they're excited to come on Tuesday, even though they're like limping around. But I think most of the population's not the case, and they're gonna go to what Elise brought up of like that old mind frame of like, oh, I'm very sore, I'm gonna rest until I feel better, and then with those people, a full week has gone by. And I think your chance of retaining them and being effective as a coach just drops a lot when that happens with a new person versus scale them heavily, get them moving, give them a feel of CrossFit, what your gym's like, what your coaching's like, and then just rev them up. And by the time they're almost done with their like rev up, and each person's different, it could be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then they're getting to the point where, yeah, they're getting sore, but it's like we've all done CrossFit every day to where we're not like limping out of bed sore. We're just like, oh, I'm a little stiff today. Or like occasionally you hit something that you're like, oh, that fucked me up, and you're super sore. So I think having that into consideration as a coach is a very important thing as well. And most likely we're practicing threshold training and having them. What's threshold training? I almost said it. Test you guys real quick. Oh, Jen,
Training
I
at
can't
that,
hear you.
I was
Who
gonna say
went?
training at that edge where like forms gets close to sacrifice.
Exactly. I feel like Gina, you were gonna say it. Sorry, you were muted. I couldn't hear you.
It's okay.
Um,
Justin got it.
yeah, training to the highest capacity, basically, of intensity without letting that mechanics break down too much. Beautiful job. You guys are smart. I think if you go ask, this is just to pat yourselves on the back, any coach at like any gym, I would say probably 9 out of 10 of them won't be able to give you that definition. So nice job, guys.
Did I interrupt something? Okay.
Sorry, I unmuted you, and now we're all fucked up. There we go. Now you're muted again. So I think like from especially a new person's point of view, it'll allow them to practice that threshold training and actually like get mechanics down, not just steering away from like wrecking them and making them too sore, basically. Anything else you guys want to add in on this soreness article? This was a direct level 3 one for you guys that have that in the future of thoughts. Unmute D. There you go.
I usually tell, especially the new people that come in, that if they do feel sore, that blood flow is going to be their best friend. So they should still come here, even though they may not, we may have to modify some stuff. But and if they can't come, to at least take a walk. And I explain, if they sit at their desk all day, they're just going to, feel more sore, etc. So I think there's like some education that has to go on as well as a coach to those new people.
I think that's a really good conversation to have and a really good point. I think the timing of that conversation is very important, making sure you get that said like day one. Because if you don't get it day one, then you have that potential to have them get lost and not come back until Friday or Saturday. Really, really good point. I think important point to make. And like explaining to them too that, I mean, if it's like how I felt on my first day of CrossFit, I felt like a fucking train hit me. I was just crazy enough to show up day 2 and had faith that my coaches were going to take care of me. And somehow I just honestly got through it. But telling them like, you may end up getting really sore, because sometimes we do try to scale somebody and it's like, oh shit, the warm up is wrecking them. And then that does happen. But letting them know that like, if you do feel like that, come tomorrow don't even take class, just come hang out and like ride the bike for 20 minutes easy. And that'll make them feel a lot better too. Like let them know that like there is multiple options. It doesn't have to necessarily only be you're going to take class and we're going to scale you. Like plenty of things we can do to make you feel better. But getting them in the gym can be a big point. Anything else on that front?
You're muted.
Sorry, the dogs are going crazy, so I was trying to yell at them for a half second. Going to macro, micro, macro, and like coaching. I think we actually did this video pretty early on in the call, but that was like back when it was like 2 of us. So I wanted to pull it back up because it's a really good conversation and video that you can apply, I think, to everyday coaching. Stop. I'm trying to get them to be quiet. It's very distracting in my thoughts when they're going nuts. What was some of you guys' takeaway from watching that, or like something you noticed that any of those coaches did? They're all awesome coaches to watch, obviously. Or like how you could apply it into everyday class and coaching or watching movement.
It's like you look at the big picture, right? And you kind of triage your cue of what's like most important to fix first. And you go to the small picture, look at that cue, see if that cue's fixed, and you take a step back and relook at the picture again.
Exactly. That's what the macro, micro, macro is. You guys ever watch somebody move, or you're coaching class and you see them do a movement and it's like they stop you and you're kind of like, something's not right about that. And like you can look at the whole movement, but you don't actually know like what it is you want to say yet. And it's like you sometimes have to watch a handful of them before you get it. This is a really good drill to start to dissect in moments like that. So it's like you see somebody move weird, you go, okay, let me start to watch like individual points of performance as we're going through this. And it could be like, I'm going to watch the next rep. Heels. Nope, those are good. Knees. Nope, those are good. Hips, if there's going to be like a hip function or quarter extremity, and you just kind of give yourself this list to start checking through, those would all be the micros that you're basically looking at. And then you find it, you work on that subject, and then like Elise and Pat Sherwood said, you take that step back out. And basically, why are you taking that step back out?
Because you may fix something, but then something else gets, kind of ruined because of that, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. I may have fixed the small problem, but even potentially created a bigger problem. I think Pat Sherwood's example in the video of like the bar not being overhead, and it's like get the bar overhead and he leans back and you're like, okay, now the bar's overhead, but his spine is hyperextended. Gonna be a lot more of an unsafe position than like the bar being over his forehead. So to make sure it goes back to that like same, better, worse. That's like your check off of did it potentially get worse? While you guys are coaching, like let's say you're taking class through a progression and you're giving these teaching points and we're doing what's a good one? We're doing the snatch. And your cue is going to be make sure you guys stand before you shrug your shoulders and pull, right? What would your micro be?
Looking at the hip extension, butt squeeze.
Yeah, looking at the hips in like that zone, with like looking for movement there. So when you guys, why I'm bringing this like point up, when you're taking class through, use this and use the micros for like your progressions and your teaching points. Or if like you're on the side and like I used to do Bergner warm up by myself and record it, then you can look at exactly like each point and the purpose of the point that you were making or teaching to like zone in on. When we do things like progressions, part of it is to dissect and just give it piece by piece to a really complex movement, right? To get people to get to a movement that's a tougher thing to just pick up, and you're just giving them these digestible little pieces. And then the other part is, to have a skill a skill progression, and have these things that you can work on going through them. So looking at the micros will help you when you're teaching class and you're seeing, find those little things and be able to get more cues out as you're going through. CrossFit and coaching is the best place to be a negative person. If you're looking for bad movement, you'll see bad movement. If you're not looking for bad movement, you will not see bad movement, and you'll walk by everybody. Be a pessimistic person when you're looking at people move, and look for the negative, because you'll see it. Just like anything, if you're negative, you're going to find the bad things. If you're positive, you're going to find the good things. Justin, were you going to say something just now? You leaned forward.
Yeah. So the video actually, like, there was a scenario today, actually, and she was giving me some coaching tips on my overhead press, dumbbell overhead press. And I read the article before I got on the call, and it made me think exactly of what happened in this scenario. So Gina saw the macro, which is my overhead press, due to like 6 a.m. class, shoulders not being like super like warmed up. The bar path is moving more forward versus overhead flexion 180 degrees, right? So she catches that, she points it out, and then I'm like, well, I cannot get it directly overhead without my arms having to go really wide. So she saw the macro, gave me the feedback to try to correct the micro, but I just can't correct the micro. And it's like, what's the next step? I think Gina and I basically kind of like determined, well, just going less on the load and working really on the mechanics at a lighter load is probably the more optimal way of doing it. But it's like, what happens when you get stuck on the micro?
It was a dumbbell press, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you don't have the option of widening, like if it was a barbell, right? Like that could be an immediate thing to fix there. I think y'all made the right call. If you're in a sense like that is threshold training, right? You're trying to find the good mechanic of having a stacked overhead position without like unpacking and hyperextending the spine. That I took that away, right? So yeah, it's just going to be, can you get into position at a lighter load, and like your intensity for the day, even though it's a lighter dumbbell press load but a better position, is that's what it was. Like if you were able to correct with that, I think you guys made a good choice.
The only problem is that the whole workout was deadlifts, cleans, and then overhead presses. And I was like, if I go lighter on the load, my deadlifts is just going to be pointless.
Then the deadlifts and cleans get really easy. Was it like a DT type joint?
Yeah.
In that case, what was, now I'm like getting nerdy. What was the rep scheme?
Was it 12, 9, 6, and then 12 calories on the bike?
Okay, so it was dumbbell DT with calories on the bike.
5 rounds. Yeah.
Did you go unbroken on the deadlifts and the hang cleans?
I went unbroken on deadlifts, hang cleans, and I dropped it a couple seconds before I went to the overhead press.
That would have been like where I would try to find the challenge. Try to do an unbroken round. You know what I mean? Like give yourself like little, like, because the press you have to lighten to hit good position. So be like, okay, the rule is then like I'm gonna do an unbroken dumbbell round and hammer the bike. Like find different areas to basically like up your intensity in, because you had to go down somewhere else.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
I tell people like especially newer people all the time, like if we get a workout that's squat, snatch, and burpees over the bar, right? Squat snatch, dude, they might be doing a PVC pipe and they might be like, this is so dumb, but they can't do a barbell, or they're maybe doing a training bar. So like they have to go slow, they have to think, they're gonna land, they're maybe gonna sink into an overhead squat, and they're moving at this slow snail's pace. Well, if that person hits the ground for the burpee and like paces their burpees, then they finish the workout and they're like, yeah, that wasn't that bad. If that person hits the ground in the burpees and goes 100%, now they're probably going to finish the burpees and not even pick up the bar fast. You know what I mean? So it's like fine when you have, I call them caveman movements. Like in the caveman movement, which would have been like the deadlift, I would say, and especially the bike, go hard on those or like make yourself have that unbroken round. Find the challenge somewhere else when you have to adjust something. You guys ever do Jackie? 1,000-meter row, 50 barbell thrusters, 30 pull-ups. I've taught that class, and if I like Dee's making a face because she's like, fuck that workout, it hurts. And it does. Like if you do it right, it hurts. I've taught classes where people go, we don't put weight on the bar for the thrusters. And I'm like, if that's your immediate response, like, dude, give me 50 unbroken if it's too easy. You know what I mean? So like even though like you have an empty barbell workout, you can sprint that row and not be able to do 10 thrusters and mess yourself up that bad, right? So it's just like find where you can apply the intensity, imply it, and put it on like a freaking hammer, and then you back off where you need to back off. For your shoulder press and like going through the range of motion and like finding where you could be in a good position without compromising like the spine and things like that. Long term and long run, like you were in good position. Your, I think, benefit for like a long time CrossFitter gaining more range of motion, it will be, I think, greater benefit of doing that than doing like a dumbbell press and being here and never actually being here. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I think you guys did make the right choice. And was it an easy workout? Would you consider it easy? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, I did it at the heavier. It was after the fact, so I was like, "Oh shit!" I went heavier than I would have done.
Oh, I
Even though
get
my
what you,
form sucked.
it created like a thought in a conversation provoking moment.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think those are good things to talk out. That was a good story. Have any of you, any other, like, have you guys experienced that, like trying to make that choice? I don't think, like, personally as an athlete, there's been a lot of times to where I scale a workout and I finish the workout and I'm like, that was too, like, way too easy. Because then what ends up happening is if I scale and I feel like I scaled too much, I just technically know I have to go faster or hang on. And usually that hurts just as bad. Sometimes, in my opinion, not scaling a workout can also be a cop out. So like keep that in mind too. Like if I do, what's a great example? If I did Cindy, right? Body weight workout, 5, 10, 15, pull up, push up, air squat. And I go, I'm going to wear a weighted vest today. And with my weighted vest, I'm doing my push-ups and I get, 5 or 10 minutes in and I'm starting to break up my push-ups and now I'm having these like 20-second gaps and 30-second gaps because I've fatigued out those. I'm going to move a lot slower in that workout than if I took that vest off and now I had no choice but to move. So sometimes like even RXing or going like an RX plus heavier can make your workout easier even though it's a heavier weight. Does that make sense? I think the weighted vest example is like the best example to use on that. Especially if it's an AMRAP. Why? We talked about this last week.
Time domain.
Yeah, I can kind of hide in it a little bit too. Like I don't have to do 5 rounds. So keep that in mind. Anything else you guys want to add to the macro, macro, or like that combo? Next time you guys that are coaching, next time you coach class, like use that and practice it. You'll notice you'll get more cues and like go to the gym and be pessimistic. Like even if you aren't coaching, I go to the gym every night. I'm not coaching there right now, and I just watch people, and I probably look like a freaking weirdo, but I just watch them and I cue them in my head, and I like kind of go through the steps of what I would do. In my first couple weeks at the gym, didn't notice anybody move like shit. Was just in my own space, whatever. Now, like watching, I'm like, wow, there's 12 out of 15 people that their squat stance is too narrow. And it's just because I was looking for it and being pessimistic. So go in and practice that, and you'll notice like a lot more stuff going on. And if you have someone that's like coaching that you're cool with and they wouldn't mind giving feedback, it can start to become like a good feedback loop as well. And you can help other coaches, not just yourself. Obviously, like good time and place for that and knowing if you should or shouldn't. That can be a sticky topic sometimes. Anything else you guys want to add? I don't have a ton more. Pretty simple call today.
How are you doing on videos for Thursday?
I've got 5 on my screen here, and then I think I have like 3 or 4 more. So I've got
Awesome.
enough for Thursday, but we're slowly getting back down. We're slowly emptying the tank.
Is
All
there
right. I'll send you one with a PR with my Coaches Mafia shirt on.
Hell yeah, I like it. What were you gonna say, D?
is there anything that we haven't really looked at that you can think of?
Some of the more advanced kettlebell stuff.
Oh,
Kettlebell clean, kettlebell snatch. We haven't done one of those.
I can video myself. I suck at the snatches, the kettlebell snatch.
I know their stuff. I think something else that would be kind of cool. I can't really film this at the moment, but like if you guys are ever coaching class or in a class and it's like a whole row of like people squatting, and the best time is like an EMOM or something like that where everybody unracks, like those are really good clips too. So if you guys ever have clips like that or like the entire class moving, because when you one obviously coach, like that's your viewpoint, you have everybody and you have to triage each person and then like the movement itself being triaged. So you have like that. But then when you guys eventually go, do your level 2, those of you guys that haven't done that yet, or you go do like level 3, though there will be clips like that. And it won't tell you who, it won't say anything. It'll just be like triage the class, and each person like might have like a number above their head, and like you have to look through and be like, okay, this one needs my attention first. Oh, so beyond like seeing an individual move, I think what's harder, seeing multiple individuals move and finding it sometimes in a fast-paced setting. So like videos like that can be really good too. So we like if you guys ever have those, or like if you see multiple people in your video, like we've kind of done that before, where we see people in the background, like feel free to send those as well. I think those can be really valuable. But yeah, send them on in to the group chat. I ain't got nothing else. Pretty easy day today. Is there any topics, by the way? I want to ask y'all this, that you would like to see more of. I pulled up the old archives of like CrossFit Journal, which I think there's a lot more information in those than there is like on the new site. A lot of the new site stuff kind of funnels you to like going to take a course or something. So if there's any topics, there's a lot of stuff in those journals. Like, let me know now, text them to me in the group or on the side, I don't care. And I'll find like stuff related to it.
I have 2 things I've been working on personally.
What do you
Anything
got?
pull up and dip related.
I can for sure find stuff with that.
And strict.
When you do dip, this is a good like we'll finish it on this. When you do dips, or any of you guys like specifically rings, like it does happen on like the Matador sometimes. Do any of you guys turn into like a dolphin to where like your chest flares out and it's like you like squeeze through? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
That's pec activation. I'll find a video drill that we'll put on Thursday that can show you that. We'll do like an experiment if that happens to you. But yeah, when you see people doing like the dolphin on the ring dips, sometimes it's not always like, are they not strong enough? It's just a muscle activation issue. It happens on push-ups too. You see it on women a lot on push-ups. They kind of like go into like a cobra, like to get out of it, and then the hip and everything else catches up. you're basically trying to get your delt and shoulder as involved as possible to kind of save you. So yeah, well, I'll look up some pull up and dip articles. I know they're out there. I'm sure there's a lot of videos on that too, which would be really good. And I'll find like a pec activation drill video. If not, I'll film one somewhere. Anything else off the top of you guys' head? Cool. If you think of something, just text it to me. I'll find stuff like that. But we'll get some pull up and dip stuff in and keep this ball rolling. All right. I'll see you guys on Thursday then. Y'all.
Bye, guys.